The morning sun rose over Veltara colony, painting the silver towers in shades of orange and pink. Minji stood at the observation deck, watching the streets below fill with activity. The Valorians moved through their city with graceful efficiency, their 6 legs carrying them smoothly over the polished walkways. She smiled, sipping her coffee. It had taken 3 years to get used to this place, but now it felt like home. "Good morning, Minji," a familiar voice chirped behind her. She turned to see Kelvos approaching. His antennae twitching with what she had learned meant happiness. The colony administrator carried a datapad in 2 of his 4 arms. "Good morning, Kelvos. You're up early," Minji replied, setting down her cup. "Trade negotiations with the Peltharan merchants. They want to discuss tariffs on mineral exports." Kelvos clicked his mandibles, in what passed for a sigh among his people. "Boring work, but necessary," Minji laughed. "That's diplomacy for you. All the excitement of watching paint dry. Is that another human saying?" Kelvos asked, his large compound eyes reflecting curiosity. "It means something very boring," she explained. Over the years, Minji had become the unofficial translator of human culture. The Valorians found Earth fascinating, always asking questions about her home planet. She told them about the oceans, the mountains, the different cultures. She showed them pictures of cities and forests, but she never mentioned the wars. She never talked about the weapons. The Valorians were peaceful traders, and knowing about humanity's violent history would only frighten them. The day proceeded normally. Minji taught a class to young Valorians about Earth's music. They found humans singing, strange but beautiful. Threnix, the security officer, stopped by to check on her, as he did every day. The Valorians took security seriously, but their idea of danger was theft or accidents, not invasion. Their world had never known war. Everything changed at 1437 local time. The alarm started as a low hum that quickly rose to a piercing wail. Minji had never heard it before. Around her, Valorians froze, their antennae standing straight up in confusion and fear. "What is that?" she shouted over the noise. Threnix burst into the room, his normally calm demeanor shattered. "Unidentified ships. Dozens of them. They just appeared at the edge of the system." "Maybe they're traders?" Minji suggested, but her stomach was already twisting with dread. "They're not responding to hails. They're not following traffic protocols. They're just coming straight for us." Threnix's voice trembled. Fast, Minji ran to the observation deck. In the distance, she could see them now. Dark shapes against the stars, growing larger every second. They didn't look like any trading vessels she had ever seen. These ships were angular, aggressive, designed for one purpose. "Get to the communication center," she told Threnix. Now, by the time they reached the communication hub, Kelvos was already there, frantically working the controls. The screens showed the approaching fleet in detail. Minji's blood ran cold. She recognized the design from Earth's xenology database. Korthak, a species that had built an empire on conquest. "Why are they here?" Kelvos's voice was high with panic. "We have no military. We're just traders. We have nothing worth taking by force." "You have a planet," Minji said quietly. "That's enough for them." The first message from the Korthak fleet came through. A large reptilian face filled the screen, scales gleaming, teeth bared in what might have been a smile. "Valorian colony. You now belong to the Korthak Dominion. Surrender your facilities and population. Resistance will be met with extermination." Kelvos looked at Minji, his compound eyes wide. "What do we do? We don't have weapons. We don't have soldiers." "Send out a distress call," Minji said. "To everyone. All your allies. The Peltharan. The Drathani. Everyone on the coalition network." "And Earth?" Kelvos asked. "Especially Earth." Minji moved to help him prepare the message. Her hands shook as she worked. "Send everything. Video, audio, our location. Tell them what's happening." As Kelvos sent the distress signal, Minji pulled up her personal communicator. She recorded a quick message to Earth Command, her voice steady despite her fear. "This is Diplomat Minji, stationed at Veltara Colony. We are under attack by Korthok forces. Hostiles number approximately 50 warships. Local population has no military capability. This is a massacre in progress. Please respond." The first weapons fire lit up the sky. Korthok ships opened up on the orbital platforms, destroying the colony's communication satellites and defensive shields. Not that the shields would have helped much. They were designed to deflect space debris, not military-grade plasma weapons. The message went out, Kelvos confirmed. "All channels, all frequencies. Someone will come. The Coalition will help us." Minji wanted to believe that. The Galactic Coalition was supposed to protect its members, but she had studied the Coalition's history. They were traders and explorers, scientists and philosophers. They had no military to speak of because they had never needed one. In the 300 years since they had formed, they had never faced a threat like this. "Minji," Kelvos said softly, watching the destruction rain down from above. She looked at him, this gentle being who had become her friend, who had welcomed her to his world, who had shown her nothing but kindness. "Yes," she promised. "They'll come. But you're explorers, like us. Scientists and diplomats." Kelvos's antennae drooped. "What can you do against this?" Minji closed her eyes. She thought about Earth, about the gravity that would crush a Valorian, about the storms that could level cities, about the predators that hunted in packs, about the history of warfare that stretched back thousands of years, about all the things she had never told her friends because she didn't want them to be afraid. "You don't understand what you've just done," she whispered. "What do you mean?" Kelvos asked. Before she could answer, the building shook. The Korthok had begun their landing. Through the windows, she could see dropships descending, carrying soldiers to occupy the colony. The Valorians had no weapons to fight back with. They were prey animals on a world that had never known predators. Threnix returned, his breathing rapid. Minji grabbed Kelvos and Threnix, pulling them toward the maintenance tunnels. "Come on, I know a way out." As they ran through the corridors, explosions echoed behind them. Minji could hear screaming, the sound of plasma weapons, the heavy footfalls of Korthok soldiers. She led her friends down into the tunnels, into the darkness, and prayed that the distress signal had reached Earth. She prayed that humanity would remember Veltara, and she feared what would happen when they did. The distress signal reached Earth Command at 3:22 GMT. Admiral Junho was in his quarters when the emergency alert pulled him from sleep. He was dressed and in the command center within 3 minutes, his gray hair still damp from a quick splash of water. The main display showed the message from Veltara. Video footage of the Korthok attack played on loop. Buildings burning. Civilians running. Plasma fire cutting through the streets. And there, for just a moment, Minji's face appeared on screen, determined despite the fear in her eyes. "How long ago?" Junho asked. 73 minutes since the signal was sent," replied Captain Yuna, who had been on duty when it arrived. "We've confirmed it's legitimate. The Korthok Dominion has launched a full invasion of Veltara Colony." Junho watched the footage again. The Valorians were dying. These gentle, peaceful beings who had welcomed humanity with open arms, who had shared their culture and their friendship, who had never hurt anyone. "Get me General Hana," he said quietly, "and Commander Doyun. Wake up the entire War Council. I want everyone in this room in 20 minutes. "Sir," Yuna hesitated. "Should we contact the Galactic Coalition first? Follow proper diplomatic channels?" Junho turned to look at her. His eyes were hard. "The time for diplomacy ended when they started killing our friends. Make the calls." Within 15 minutes, the War Council had assembled. General Hana arrived in her combat uniform, always ready. Commander Doyun joined, via secure link, from his ship in the outer system. "Dr. Nari," The chief xenobiologist, brought data files on the Korthak species. Lieutenant Sumin, leader of the Special Forces, stood quietly in the corner, already planning infiltration routes in her mind. Junho addressed them all. I'm sure you've all seen the footage. Veltara is under attack. The question before us is simple. Do we respond? Do we respond? They're our friends, Hannah said immediately. Of course we respond. The Korthak fleet outnumbers anything we could send on short notice. Doyun noted, his face serious on the screen. Intelligence suggests they have at least 50 warships in that sector. Then we send 100, Junho replied. Nari pulled up her files. The Korthak evolved on a low-gravity world with a thin atmosphere. Their home planet has about 60% of Earth's gravity and 40% of our atmospheric pressure. They're strong for their environment, but by our standards, they're fragile. Weaknesses? Hannah asked. They've never fought a species from a high-gravity world. Their ships are built light to conserve fuel. Their armor is designed to stop energy weapons, not kinetic projectiles. And psychologically, they're bullies. They've spent 300 years conquering species weaker than themselves. They have no experience with real resistance. Attestants, Junho nodded slowly. They don't know what they're dealing with. Sir, Yuna spoke up. The Valorians don't know what we're dealing with either. We've kept our military capabilities hidden from the coalition. If we show them what we really are, it could frighten them. I'd rather have them frightened and alive than dead and at peace, Junho said. How fast can we mobilize? Commander Doyun checked his displays. The retribution is ready now. I can have 15 carrier groups assembled and jumping in 6 hours. Full planetary assault capability in 12. Do it, Junho ordered. General Hana, I want your Marines ready for immediate deployment. Lieutenant Suman, take your best team and prepare for infiltration. If there are survivors, we need to extract them. Understood, sir, Suman said, already moving toward the door. Wait. Junho stood up. I want everyone to understand what we're about to do. For years, we've hidden our true nature from the galaxy. We've pretended to be explorers and scientists because we didn't want to scare anyone. But the Korthak have crossed a line. They've attacked people under our protection. He looked at each of them in turn. When we arrive at Veltara, we're not going as diplomats. We're going as Earth's military. We're going to show the galaxy what humanity is really capable of. And we're going to make damn sure that no one ever thinks about attacking our friends again. The room was silent for a moment. Then Hana smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Over the next 6 hours, Earth's military machine came to life. Ships that had been on patrol or in dock received their orders and began moving toward assembly points. The Retribution, Doyun's massive dreadnought, took position at the head of the fleet. Around it gathered carriers, destroyers, frigates, and assault ships. Weapons that had been kept in reserve were loaded and armed. In the Marine barracks, Hana walked among her troops. These men and women were volunteers, each one trained to fight in Earth's crushing gravity and toxic atmosphere. They wore powered armor that would be too heavy for most alien species to even move. They carried weapons designed to punch through reinforced bunkers. Listen up, Hana addressed them. The target is Veltara Colony. Friendly civilians are in danger. The enemy is the Korthak Dominion. They're occupiers, and they're killing innocents. We're going to stop them. A Marine raised his hand. Rules of engagement, sir? Anyone shooting at civilians is a valid target. Anyone who surrenders will be taken prisoner and treated according to the laws of war. Anyone who keeps fighting after we tell them to stop gets what they're asking for. Hana's voice was cold. The Korthak think they're predators. They've never met real predators before. Let's educate them. The Marines cheered. Lieutenant Suman gathered her Special Forces team in the briefing room. 12 operators. The best of the best. They studied the layout of Veltara Colony, identifying hiding spots where civilians might have taken refuge. We go in quiet, Suman explained. Stealth insertion before the main fleet arrives. Our job is to find survivors and keep them safe until the cavalry shows up. The Korthok will be looking for organized resistance. They won't be expecting ghosts. What if we run into enemy patrols? One of her team asked. Sumin checked her weapons. Then they'll learn why humans hunted megafauna to extinction on our home world. Questions? There were none. Commander Doyun stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching his fleet assemble. 15 carrier groups, nearly 200 warships, all built to withstand the rigors of operating in Earth's solar system. These ships could fly through radiation storms that would fry most alien electronics. Their hulls could withstand impacts that would crumple lighter vessels. All ships report ready, sir, his first officer announced. Very good. Transmit the following message to the Korthok Dominion. All frequencies. Doyun's voice was calm. This is Commander Doyun, of the Human Defense Fleet. You have attacked Veltara Colony, home to species under Earth's protection. We are coming for you. Surrender now, and you will be treated fairly. Continue your attack, and you will face the consequences. You have been warned. He closed the channel and turned to his crew. All ships, prepare for jump. Destination: Veltara system. Let's go bring our people home. The fleet vanished into faster-than-light space, leaving Earth behind. In the command center, Admiral Junho watched them go. Sir, Yuna asked quietly, do you think the Korthok will surrender when they see our fleet? Junho shook his head. No. They've been winning for too long. They think they're invincible. Then, a lot of them are going to die. Yes. Junho agreed. But not our people. Not our friends. Not anymore. Lieutenant Sumin's stealth ship slipped through the Veltara system like a shadow. The small craft was designed for exactly this kind of mission. Its hull, coated with materials that absorbed sensor scans. While the main fleet was still hours away, Sumin and her team had gone ahead. Reading multiple Korthok signatures on the surface, her pilot reported. They've set up occupation zones throughout the colony. Heavy patrols in the central districts. Any sign of civilian activity? Sumin asked, studying the tactical display. Scattered heat signatures in the lower levels. Maintenance tunnels, storage areas, could be survivors in hiding. Sumin nodded. Take us down on the eastern edge. Away from the main occupation force. We'll move in on foot. The ship descended through Veltara's atmosphere in complete silence. They landed in a ruined industrial sector, where broken buildings provided cover. Sumin's team moved out quickly, their powered armor making no sound despite its weight. Each operator carried enough firepower to level a building, but their orders were clear. Stay quiet. Find survivors. Wait for the fleet. They moved through the devastation like ghosts. Bodies lay in the streets. Valorian civilians who had been caught in the initial attack. Sumin felt anger rising in her chest but pushed it down. Emotions could wait. The mission came first. Contact, one of her team whispered. Korthok patrol, 3 soldiers, moving toward the commerce district. Sumin held up a fist, and her team froze. They watched the patrol pass, their reptilian forms moving with the confidence of occupiers who believed they had already won. It would have been easy to take them down, but gunfire would alert the entire occupation force. Let them go, Sumin ordered. We're not here for them yet. They continued deeper into the colony, following the heat signatures toward the maintenance tunnels. The entrance was hidden behind rubble, but Sumin's scanner picked up life signs below. Multiple contacts, tunnel system, approximately 50 meters down, her tech specialist reported. Biorhythms match Valorian physiology. At least 30 individuals. And 1 human, Sumin added, looking at her scanner. Minji's still alive. They found the tunnel entrance and descended carefully. The maintenance corridors were dark, lit only by emergency lighting. Sumin activated her helmet's night vision and kept moving forward. A voice called out from the darkness. Stop right there. Sumin raised her hand, signaling her team to hold. We're human military. Special forces. We're here to help. Silence. Then Minji stepped into view, holding a Korthok plasma rifle. She looked exhausted, her diplomatic uniform torn and dirty, but her eyes were alert and determined. When she saw Suman's armor, she lowered the weapon. "The cavalry's here," Suman said. Minji let out a breath she'd been holding for what felt like days. About damn time. Behind her, Valorians emerged from hiding. Kelvos was there, along with Threnix and about 40 other survivors. They looked terrified, but hopeful. "How many?" Sumin asked. "This is everyone I could save," Minji said quietly. "The Korthak killed hundreds in the first hour. We've been hiding down here since the attack started. Are they searching for you?" "They were, but I think they decided we weren't worth the effort." Minji's voice was bitter. "They're more interested in looting the colony than hunting down refugees." Suman nodded. "Good. That makes our job easier. The fleet will be here soon. When they arrive, things are going to get loud. We need to keep you all safe until extraction." "Fleet?" Kelvo stepped forward, his antennae quivering. "How many ships did Earth send?" Enough." Suman replied simply. Above them, in orbit around Veltara, War Chieftain Gormak sat in his command ship, enjoying his victory. The Valorians had been pathetically easy to conquer. No weapons, no military, no resistance at all. His soldiers were currently cataloging the colony's resources and preparing it for integration into the Dominion. War Chieftain, his second-in-command, approached. "We've received a strange message." Gormak looked up from his reports. "From whom?" "The humans. They claim the Valorians are under their protection. They're demanding we surrender." Gormak laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. "The humans? Those soft explorers? How many ships did they send?" "Sensors show a fleet approaching. Approximately 200 vessels." 200? Gormak's amusement faded slightly. "Against our 50? They seem confident, War Chieftain." Gormak stood up, walking to the viewing screen. He had studied the humans briefly when they first made contact with the galaxy. Scientists and diplomats, always talking about peace and cooperation. Weak, soft, not warriors. "Prepare the fleet for combat," he ordered. "If the humans want to die protecting these insects, we'll accommodate them. Send a message back. Tell them Veltara belongs to the Korthak now, and they can turn around or be destroyed." In the maintenance tunnels below, Suman's communicator chirped softly. She checked the message and smiled inside her helmet. "Fleet's dropping out of FTL in 30 seconds, she told Minji. "What happens then?" Minji asked. "Then you get to see what Earth has been hiding from the galaxy." Above Veltara, space rippled. The human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel, in perfect military formation. Commander Doyun's dreadnought, the Retribution, took the center position, flanked by carriers and destroyers. The ships formed up with practiced precision, their weapons already armed and tracking the Korthak vessels. On his bridge, Gormak stared at the display in disbelief. The human ships were massive, far larger than their intelligence had suggested, and they moved with military discipline that spoke of long practice. "Scan them," he ordered. "I want to know what we're facing." The science officer worked his console, then looked up in confusion. "War Chieftain, these readings can't be right. The human ships are built like fortresses, hull thickness that would make them too heavy to maneuver efficiently. Weapons that generate more recoil than their mass should be able to handle. Then the scans are wrong. Adjust your instruments. I've run 3 separate scans. They all show the same thing." The officer looked frightened now. "War Chieftain, these ships are built to survive in extreme conditions. Nothing in the coalition builds vessels this heavily reinforced." Gormak felt the first stirring of doubt. But he had 50 warships against 200. Numbers meant nothing if the enemy was weak. "All ships, battle formation, prepare to fire." Commander Doyun watched the Korthak fleet positioning itself. They were spreading out, trying to envelop his formation. Standard tactics for a superior force facing an inferior one. They still thought they had the advantage. "Weapons status?" he asked calmly. Railguns charged and ready. Missile batteries loaded. All ships report weapons free. All missile batteries loaded with an aborted. All missile batteries. Railguns charged. And everyone 70s. And everyone 70s. Railguns charged. And railguns charged. And everyone 70s. And everyone 70s. And everyone 70s. Good. Open a channel to the Korthok commander. Gormak's face appeared on screen. Reptilian features twisted in contempt. Doyun looked at him for a long moment. This is the HSS Retribution. You have one chance to surrender. Drop your weapons, power down your ships, and prepare to be boarded. You will be treated fairly under the laws of war. Gormak laughed. You dare threaten us? We are the Korthok Dominion. We have conquered 100 worlds. What makes you think you can stop us? Because, Doyun said quietly, you've never fought anyone who could fight back before. You're bullies who prey on the weak. But the Valorians aren't alone anymore. They have friends, and we protect our friends. Brave words from a species of scientists. What are you going to do? Talk us to death? Doyun smiled, and it was not a kind expression. No. We're going to show you what 4 billion years of evolution on a death world creates. This is your last chance. Surrender now. Gormak cut the channel and turned to his crew. All ships, fire at will. Destroy them. The Korthok fleet opened fire first, plasma bolts and energy beams lancing through space toward the human ships. The weapons were designed to overwhelm the light shields used by coalition species. They splashed uselessly against the Retribution's shields, which were built to withstand solar radiation and micrometeorite impacts in Earth's violent solar system. Shields holding at 98%. The tactical officer reported. Return fire, Doyun ordered. Show them what real weapons look like. The Retribution's railguns fired with a sound that echoed through the ship's frame. Solid metal projectiles, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, crossed the distance to the Korthok fleet in seconds. The first projectile hit a Korthok cruiser dead center. The ship's shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, offered no resistance to kinetic impact. The projectile punched through the hull like paper, and the cruiser simply came apart, torn in half by the massive transfer of energy. 3 more Korthok ships died in the first salvo. On his bridge, Gormak watched in horror as his fleet began to disintegrate. But the Korthok ships were too slow. Built light to save fuel, they couldn't maneuver fast enough to dodge weapons traveling at relativistic speeds. The human fleet fired again and again, each shot precisely targeted. Railgun rounds tore through hulls. Missiles, when they hit, released fusion warheads that vaporized entire sections of ship. War chieftain, we're being slaughtered, his second-in-command shouted. Shields are ineffective against kinetic weapons. Our armor can't withstand the impacts. Fight back. Concentrate fire on their flagship. The remaining Korthok ships focused their weapons on the Retribution. Dozens of plasma beams converged on the massive dreadnought. The human ship's shields flared. Bright, but held. The Retribution had been built to operate in the radiation-soaked inner solar system, flying close to the sun. This was nothing. Commander Doyun watched calmly as his ship absorbed the enemy fire. Tactical. Give me a firing solution on their command ship. Locked. Sir. Fire. The Retribution's main gun, a weapon designed to destroy asteroids that threatened Earth, spoke once. The round hit Gormak's flagship just below the command deck. The ship didn't explode. It simply crumpled. The entire forward section collapsing inward from the impact. Warning klaxons screamed as atmosphere vented into space. Engineering reports critical damage, someone shouted on Gormak's bridge. Reactor containment failing. Evacuate the command deck, Gormak ordered, but it was too late. The ship was dying around him. In space, the battle had become a slaughter. The Korthok fleet, which had seemed so formidable against peaceful traders, fell apart against real military opposition. Human destroyers hunted down fleeing vessels. Fighters, piloted by humans, whose reflexes had evolved hunting fast prey on Earth, danced through defensive fire, like they were flying through a gentle rain. Pilot Jiwoo pulled his fighter into a hard turn that would have knocked out most alien species from the G-forces. His body, adapted to Earth's heavy gravity, handled it easily. He lined up on a Korthok destroyer and fired his missiles. They hit along the ship's spine, and the destroyer broke in two. Reaper to flight control. That's 8 confirmed kills, he reported, pulling around for another pass. Copy that, Reaper. Good hunting. Aboard the Retribution, Commander Doyun opened a channel to the entire Korthak fleet. All Korthak vessels, this is your final warning. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. We will show you mercy if you stop fighting. Continue, and you will all die. Some of the Korthak captains, seeing their fleet torn apart, powered down their weapons and shields. Others, too proud or too frightened, kept fighting. They died quickly. But the battle in space was only half the war. On the surface of Veltara, Korthak occupation forces heard the fighting above and realized something was wrong. General Hana's drop pods began falling from the sky like meteors, trailing fire through the atmosphere. The Korthak soldiers looked up in confusion as the pods struck the ground. They expected soft scientists, easy prey, like the Valorians. What emerged from those pods was something from their nightmares. Human Marines in powered armor stepped out, weapons ready. Each suit of armor weighed more than 3 Korthak soldiers combined, built to operate in Earth's crushing gravity. The Marines moved with purpose, spreading out in practiced formations. A Korthak squad opened fire with their plasma rifles. The shots bounced off the Marine armor, leaving scorch marks but no real damage. The armor was designed to protect against anything from bullets to radiation to extreme temperatures. Sergeant Hyun, leading his squad through the colony streets, spoke into his comm. Contact front, 12 hostiles, they're shooting at us. Rules of engagement? One of his Marines asked. They fired first. Return fire. The Marines raised their weapons and fired back. Human assault rifles, using old-fashioned chemical propellants, tore through the Korthak position. The aliens had never faced projectile weapons before. Their body armor, designed for energy weapons, offered no protection. The Korthak squad was eliminated in seconds. More occupation forces converged on the Marine positions. They outnumbered the humans 10-1, but numbers meant nothing. The Korthak soldiers, evolved on a low-gravity world, tired quickly in Veltara's Earth-like environment. Their weapons, effective against other coalition species, were useless against human armor, and their tactics, designed for conquering the helpless, fell apart against trained soldiers. General Hana watched the battle unfold from her command post. Data streamed in from her squads. 0 casualties. Enemy forces in full retreat. Civilian safe zones being secured. Too easy, she muttered. They have no idea how to fight a real military. One of her officers approached. General, we've located a large concentration of Korthak forces holding position at the Central Administration Building. They've barricaded themselves inside with hostages. How many hostages? Approximately 200 Valorian civilians. Hana's expression hardened. Send in the negotiation team, but have heavy weapons standing by. If they hurt anyone else, we end this quickly. Deep in the maintenance tunnels, Suman heard the sounds of battle echoing from above. Explosions. Gunfire. The heavy footfalls of powered armor. That's our people, she told the Valorians. You're safe now. Kelvos looked at Minji with wide eyes. Your people are fighting for us? They're fighting for their friends, Minji corrected gently. But there are so many Korthak soldiers up there. How can humans possibly... A massive explosion shook the tunnel, cutting him off. Dust fell from the ceiling. Because, Minji said, Earth is a death world, and humans are very, very good at war. Above them, the battle continued. Korthak soldiers who surrendered were taken prisoner and treated humanely. Medical teams stabilized their wounded, alongside Valorian, injured. But those who kept fighting learned why humans had climbed to the top of Earth's food chain. A Korthak officer, cornered by a Marine squad, made a last desperate stand. He emptied his plasma rifle at the approaching humans, screaming defiance. The shots bounced off their armor. When his weapon ran dry, Sergeant Hyun walked up to him calmly. "I'm giving you one chance," Hyun said through his helmet speakers. "Drop your weapon and surrender." The Korthak officer looked at this armored giant standing before him, barely winded, completely unharmed. He thought about his homeworld, where he had been a feared warrior. He thought about the 100 worlds the Dominion had conquered. None of it mattered here. He dropped his weapon and raised his hands. In orbit, the space battle was ending. Of the 50 Korthak warships that had attacked Veltara, 37 were destroyed. The remaining 13 had surrendered and were being boarded by human marines. Gormak's crippled flagship was tractored into the Retribution's hangar bay. Commander Doyun stood on his bridge, watching the mop-up operations. The battle had lasted 4 hours, from first contact to final surrender. 4 hours to destroy a fleet that had terrorized this sector for years. "Casualties?" he asked. 3 minor injuries from equipment malfunctions during boarding operations. No combat-related casualties. "Ah," Doyun nodded. It was as he had expected. The Korthak had never fought anyone who could fight back. They were predators who had only ever hunted prey. They didn't know what to do when something bigger and meaner showed up. "Signal General Hana. Tell her the space is secure. She can focus on ground operations." On the surface, the Korthak forces were collapsing. Most were surrendering. Some tried to flee and were captured by Marine patrols. The hostage situation at the administration building ended when a human negotiator simply walked up to the barricade, ignored the weapons pointed at him, and explained exactly what would happen if the hostages were harmed. The Korthak commander inside, watching through windows as his forces were systematically defeated by these armored monsters, surrendered without firing a shot. By the time the sun set on Veltara, the battle was over. The colony was liberated. Korthak soldiers sat in prisoner compounds, guarded by human marines. Medical teams treated the wounded of both sides. And in the maintenance tunnels, Sumin led the survivors up into the light. Kelvos emerged to find his colony damaged but intact. Human soldiers moved through the streets, securing the area. He saw one Marine carefully helping a wounded Valorian child, the massive armored figure moving with surprising gentleness. "I don't understand," Kelvos said to Minji. "You're so strong. So powerful. Why did you hide this from us?" Minji looked at her friend. "Because we didn't want you to be afraid of us. We wanted to be friends, not conquerors. But the Korthak, they crossed a line," Minji said simply. "No one hurts our friends. Not anymore." 3 days after the battle, the Galactic Coalition Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered at the council station. A massive structure built in neutral space. The chamber buzzed with nervous conversation. Ambassador Taeyang stood in the human delegation area, waiting his turn to speak. Next to him, Admiral Junho sat quietly in his dress uniform. They had been summoned to explain Earth's actions at Veltara. The council speaker, a bird-like being named Rindal, called the session to order. Her feathers ruffled with agitation as she addressed the assembly. "We are here to discuss the incident at Veltara Colony," she began. 3 days ago, the human species deployed a military fleet to that location and engaged in armed conflict with the Korthak Dominion. The results were unexpected. That was an understatement. Images from the battle played on screens throughout the chamber. Korthak warships being torn apart. Human soldiers fighting with terrifying efficiency. Everyone, 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 everyone. The sheer scale of destruction that humanity had unleashed. The humans destroyed 37 warships and killed over 3,000 Korthak soldiers. Rindal continued. They did this in less than 4 hours. We have questions. A representative from the Peltharan Confederacy stood up. We demand to know why humanity hid their military capabilities from the Council. This is a clear violation of trust. Another voice joined in. How many warships does Earth possess? What other weapons are they hiding? More voices rose, some angry, some frightened. Ambassador Taeyang, she said, please explain your species' actions. Taeyang walked to the central platform. He looked around at the assembled species, seeing fear and confusion on every face. He had prepared this speech carefully. Members of the Council, he began. First, let me address the immediate concern. Yes, humanity possesses significant military capabilities. Yes. We chose not to advertise this fact when we first made contact with the galactic community. We did this deliberately, and I will explain why. He activated a holographic display. This is Earth. The image showed a blue and green world, beautiful from space. But then the display zoomed in. Massive storms that would destroy most alien structures. Oceans with crushing depths. Mountains that reached into thin atmosphere. And wildlife. So much dangerous wildlife. Earth's gravity is 1.3 times standard coalition norm, Taeyang explained. Our atmospheric pressure is 1.5 times standard. Our planet experiences regular catastrophic weather events. Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tsunamis. And in this environment, life evolved. More images appeared. Predators, hunting in packs. Prey animals with deadly defenses. Parasites and diseases, and 1,000 different ways to die. On Earth, everything is trying to kill everything else, Taeyang said quietly. It's been this way for 4 billion years. Species evolve, adapt, or go extinct. Humanity survived by becoming adaptable, resilient, and yes, dangerous. He showed images of human history. Not the peaceful parts. The wars, the weapons, the long, bloody climb from stone tools to space flight. We are not proud of this history, Taeyang continued. We've spent thousands of years fighting each other. We've made terrible mistakes. But we've also learned from them. We learned that strength without compassion leads to tyranny. We learned that the strong have a responsibility to protect the weak. A representative from the Drathan Assembly interrupted. So you admit you're dangerous? That we should fear you? Dangerous? Taeyang considered the word. Yes. But danger is not the same as evil. A doctor with a scalpel is dangerous. A parent protecting their child is dangerous. We have the capacity for violence, but we choose when and how to use it. He changed the display to show the Valorian colony. The Valorians are our friends. When the Korthok attacked them, they sent a distress call. They asked for help. What were we supposed to do? Ignore them? Let them die because revealing our capabilities might frighten people? The chamber was silent now. We made a choice, Taeyang said. We chose to save our friends. And yes, we did it with violence. Because the Korthok only understand violence. They've spent 300 years conquering peaceful species. Someone had to stop them. Rindal spoke carefully. What you did at Veltara was not just defense. You destroyed them completely. You showed no mercy. We showed mercy to every Korthok who surrendered. Junho stood up, his voice hard. We took prisoners. We treated their wounded. We fed them and gave them water. But those who kept fighting? Those who kept trying to kill innocent people? Yes. We destroyed them. Because that's what you do to people who refuse to stop hurting others. Another council member stood. How do we know you won't use this power against us? How do we know Earth won't become the next Korthak Dominion? Taeyang looked at the speaker. Because we've been where you are. We know what it's like to be conquered. To be oppressed. Every human culture has experienced it at some point. We know how it feels, and we don't want to inflict that on anyone else. He paused, letting that sink in. We're not asking you to trust us blindly. We're offering you a choice. Species who want Earth's protection can have it. In exchange, we ask for friendship, trade, cultural exchange. We want to learn from you, and we hope you'll learn from us. And if we refuse? Someone asked. Then we respect that decision, Taeyang said simply. We won't force protection on anyone, but we also won't stand by and watch people die when we have the power to help them. Rindal was quiet for a long moment. The council will need time to discuss this. Of course, Taeyang agreed. While you discuss, may I show you something? He changed the display one more time. It showed Veltara colony. 3 days after the battle. Human engineers worked alongside Valorian workers, rebuilding damaged structures. Human doctors treated injured civilians. Human soldiers played with Valorian children. Their massive armor set aside. This is what Earth offers, Taeyang said. Not conquest. Not domination. Partnership. Friendship. Protection for those who need it. We're not perfect. We're not saints. But we're trying to be better than we were. The council session adjourned for deliberations. In the hallway outside, Kelvos waited with a small delegation of Valorians. They approached Taeyang nervously. Ambassador, Kelvos said. We wanted to thank you for saving us, for not abandoning us. Taeyang smiled warmly. You don't need to thank us. That's what friends do. But we had no idea what you really were. What Earth really was. Kelvos's antennae drooped. Minji showed us recordings from your planet. The gravity, the predators, the storms. It's terrifying. I know, Taeyang said gently. That's why we didn't tell you. We were afraid you'd be frightened of us. We are frightened, Kelvos admitted. But we're also grateful. And confused. How can a species so dangerous also be so kind? Taeyang thought about that. Maybe it's because we're dangerous that we learn to be kind. On Earth, we have a saying. Be kind. For everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. We know what it's like to struggle, to suffer, to be afraid. And because we know, we try to help others who are going through the same thing. Over the next weeks, the council debated. Some species were terrified of humanity and wanted nothing to do with them. Others, particularly those who had been threatened by aggressive neighbors, immediately requested Earth's protection. The result was the Human Defense Pact. 63 species signed on in the first month. Earth would provide military protection and assistance. In exchange, the signing species would engage in peaceful trade and cultural exchange with humanity. Admiral Junho established patrol routes through the sectors where Pact members lived. Human warships became a common sight, but they made no aggressive moves. They simply watched, ready to respond if needed. The Korthok prisoners were a different problem. War Chieftain Gormak stood trial for war crimes. He was convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment. But many of the regular soldiers, once they understood they wouldn't be executed, began talking. What they revealed shocked the council. The Korthok dominion was built on oppression. Soldiers were forced to serve. Dissent was punished with death. Many of the prisoners requested asylum, preferring to stay in human custody rather than return home. General Hana established a program to resettle these refugees. It wasn't popular with everyone, but she was firm. They were following orders, she said. Now they have a chance to choose a different path. We should help them take it. Axide. Minji returned to Veltara once the colony was rebuilt. She found it changed but healing. Human engineers had helped redesign the defenses, adding proper shields and warning systems. A small human garrison stayed behind, not as occupiers but as friends. She stood in the same observation deck where the attack had begun, looking out at the city below. Kelvos joined her. Strange, isn't it? He said. A month ago, I thought I knew what humans were. Peaceful explorers, scientists, diplomats. And now? Minji asked. Now I know you're all of those things. But you're also warriors. Protectors. Soldiers. He turned to look at her. It's frightening and comforting at the same time. I understand, Minji said. We frighten ourselves sometimes. All that capacity for violence. But we try to use it for good. Your Admiral Junho said something in his testimony to the council, Kelvos recalled. He said strength without compassion is tyranny, but compassion without strength is useless. I've been thinking about that. He's right, Minji agreed. Being kind isn't enough if you can't protect the people you care about. Being strong isn't enough if you use that strength to hurt others. You need both. Far above them, Captain Yuna's ship passed in orbit, one of dozens maintaining watch over the sector. On Earth, new ships were being built. Not for conquest, for protection. In the council chambers, Rindal issued a formal statement. The Galactic Coalition recognizes the Human Defense Pact as a legitimate organization. While we remain concerned about Earth's military capabilities, we acknowledge their right to protect themselves and their allies. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start. Kelvos asked Minji one more question. Do you think the other species will ever stop being afraid of humans? Minji considered this. Maybe some will. Maybe some won't. But I think over time, they'll see that we're not monsters. We're just people who evolved on a dangerous world. A world that taught us to be strong. And to be kind, Kelvos added. And to be kind, Minji agreed, smiling. Because fear taught us to be strong, and strength taught us to be kind. That's what it means to be human. Above Veltara, the stars shone bright. And among them, human ships kept watch, silent guardians making sure that no one would ever hurt their friends again.